Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back to my subscribers. This is where we talk about money, savings, and turning your hard-earned cash into wealth-building assets. This is Bald Guy Money. I am Bald Guy. Let's talk money. Today our topic is really important, and it is the budding Bitcoin versus gold argument that we're going to cover. And I want to make one thing perfectly clear from the start. If you're expecting me to really bash either one of them, well, this is probably not your video, because I am simply going to take a look at the truths and compare them one-to-one of Bitcoin versus gold. So please watch this video to the very end, because the last thing I am going to do is I am going to break down what I think is a good ownership level of people at different age brackets. I've done this in past videos. I'm going to repeat it now, and it's basically going to give you an overview of both Bitcoin and gold split at different age groups. And as always, please remember, this is not investment advice. This is educational, if anything. And as a favor to me, please hit the like button. Please show your support. Let's try to get it over 500 for this video. Don't forget to follow me also on Instagram at bald_guy_money if you'd like daily updates on what I'm thinking and what is going on with me. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, Bitcoin versus gold. Like I said, a very important topic, and I felt really compelled to cover this topic in a video because I've been seeing some pretty concerning comments in the comments section of my videos that absolutely shows that both sides of this argument, people on both sides of this argument have what could I call them, misconceptions when it comes to the other side. So to evaluate each one of them fairly, I have come up with a list of 5 things I think are important when deciding which one to invest in, as well as how much to invest in each one of these 2 things. And here's the list. Number 1, a risk evaluation. Number 2, potential investment upside. Number 3, the use case for each one of these. Number 4, the longevity. And number 5, the ease and safety of storage. And I'm going to cover all 5 of these in detail starting now. So let's tackle them in order, starting from the risk factors associated with both of them. And so let's bring up the first comparison. Okay, so when doing this, I really tried to be pragmatic and determine what things I am absolutely most concerned about in each topic. So when it comes to actual risk investment, I started from the chances that it has to go to 0. And as you can see, actually, gold, having been around for so long, it really has no chance that it's going to go to 0, because there are uses for it that I'll cover later on that basically mean it's always going to be around. And the truth is that Bitcoin, although the chances I really put at being extremely low at this point in time, they still exist. And in that particular point, gold beats Bitcoin. Okay? Now, looking at the second one, with respect to counterparty risk, is it easy to counterfeit one or the other? When it comes to Bitcoin, it is actually impossible to counterfeit it because of the large network that is employed in verifying who holds how much. With gold, many of you gold investors or people who have ever been interested in investing in gold understand that there is a lot of counterparty risk, and it is actually possible to purchase counterfeited gold or gold plated lead bars. It's happened before. I'm not saying it's common, especially for people who know what they're doing, but the risk exists, whereas it doesn't exist for Bitcoin. The third point when analyzing risk is how volatile these 2 investment vehicles are. And we know that Bitcoin is a lot more volatile than gold. So on that point, gold wins. And when it comes to whether or not these 2 things can be hacked or banned or made illegal, well, the fact of the matter is many governments have tried to make them both illegal throughout the course of history, and it simply has never worked. Both of these things are what you could call decentralized, and it is impossible to fully get them out of the hands of the people who have them and stop transactions happening with them being used as a medium. Okay, now with all that said, looking at the scoreboard, we see that actually gold had 3 positive points in that comparison and Bitcoin only 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to give 1 point to gold. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is investment upside. What I'm trying to evaluate here is which one has the best chance of experiencing high levels of growth. And as you can see, it's not really that close. Over the last 5 years, Bitcoin has grown by 16,500%, whereas gold's price has only increased about 40% over the last 5 years. When it comes to the total market cap of Bitcoin versus gold, a lot of people think that Bitcoin's market cap should be equal or exceed that of gold, which means that Bitcoin has at least a 10x to do from here, whereas, as we established in the risk department, gold is relatively stable, especially versus Bitcoin. So here Bitcoin has a much higher upside, at least a 10x factor from here. When it comes to exactly where these two investment vehicles are with respect to their price development, we know that Bitcoin is in exploration mode and gold is rather established. What that means is, as I mentioned in point 2, Bitcoin has a much higher chance of having large upsides, which mean you can actually significantly increase your investment in Bitcoin versus gold should you choose to invest in Bitcoin versus gold today. And point number 4 is actually taking a look at how much institutional money is in gold versus Bitcoin. Now, when we look at gold, the first ETF, so exchange traded funds, launched for gold back in, I believe it was 2004. And since then, a lot of money has poured into gold, significantly increasing the price of gold since then. When we look at Bitcoin, the first ETFs have only just been approved last week. And there will probably be more content on this channel coming on that topic. But what that means is that now that institutional money can safely enter Bitcoin, there is a huge upside for Bitcoin, and I covered it in a previous video about Bitcoin, explaining exactly what my price prediction is once the ETFs get approved. And if you have seen that video, you'll know that I'm expecting Bitcoin now to head straight up to $85,000, which I'm expecting us to hit by the end of this year. So let's bring up the scoreboard again. That was a clean sweep actually in that round. And that brings our score to 1 for Bitcoin and 1 for gold. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Moving on to the next topic. The next point is on the use case. And some of you gold bugs out there may be a bit disappointed with this, but please let me explain each point. Number 1, when it comes to liquidity, I do understand that gold is pretty liquid and you can take it anywhere and sell it almost at any time, even on the free market to people, whether it's on a Facebook marketplace or on eBay, etc. But the fact is that Bitcoin is much more liquid. Right now, I can click a button and I can sell it basically at the spot price for a very low transaction fee and get my money out of Bitcoin right now. Whereas with gold, we know that it's much more complicated to find a counterparty to purchase your gold. And also when you're taking it, for example, to a coin shop, the fact that they simply don't give you the full amount of spot because they need to have some margin there for themselves. The second point is that Bitcoin is super divisible. You don't actually have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And I do know that you don't have to buy a whole ounce of gold or a kilo of gold. There are fractional coins of gold, but the fact is once you're holding a fractional coin, it is impossible for you to divide it into smaller units. Whereas in the case of Bitcoin, you can divide a whole Bitcoin into 100 million Satoshis. Which means, even if you're holding a half a Bitcoin, you can still divide it into many subparts, which actually gold, you're not able to do that. Now, on the third point is with respect to widely accepted for payments. Here, I know maybe some of you gold bugs will actually have something against this point, but the fact of the matter is nobody's really going around with gold coins and using it for transactions, especially when you're talking about smaller transactions, because there is, again, I bring it up, counterparty risk, that from the risk factor, you could be trying to pass off fake gold. Whereas with Bitcoin, when you're depositing it directly into somebody's wallet, it's easily verifiable whether or not they're getting real Bitcoin. And in fact, you can YouTube this. There was a video I saw done recently where I believe it was a CNN or Fox News person goes around New York City just paying things for Bitcoin. We know that in that video they had to pay a big premium on things, but the fact is that Bitcoin is accepted for payments by a lot of companies, whereas if you call Tesla, for example, they have never accepted gold coins, and from what I understand, they will be accepting Bitcoin again soon. And the last point is actually that, you know, there's very low pressure on Bitcoin transactions. You're going on to an exchange and you're selling the Bitcoin into the exchange and taking the liquidity out of Bitcoin, whereas with gold, there's kind of pressure associated with these transactions when you're trying to get your liquidity out of it. If you go to, for example, a coin shop, I'm sure some of you have probably been disappointed at what the proprietor of the gold shop has offered you. So when we're talking about the actual use case and liquidity of it, definitely Bitcoin is an all-around winner here. And that brings our tally on our scoreboard to 2 points for Bitcoin and 1 point for gold. But that's not the end. We still have 2 more topics to explore, so let's explore the next one. The next one is longevity. And what I mean by longevity is basically how long it's been around, how long it will be around, and how durable it is in the long run. And this will be no surprise to you, gold kicks Bitcoin's butt when it comes to longevity. And why is that? Well, gold's been around for thousands of years, whereas Bitcoin's only been around for 11 years. I even admitted in the first point that although the chance is very, very small, and I estimate it to be certainly less than 5%, Bitcoin could at some point go to zero, whereas gold never will. Now, when it comes to being affected by the elements, I mean, you're storing Bitcoin for all intents and purposes on a hard drive in many cases. And the fact is that a hard drive, when exposed to the elements, can deteriorate, become damaged, and you can lose that Bitcoin, whereas that would never happen to a gold bar or a gold coin or even gold jewelry. Number 3 is about the future. Gold has been around for a long time. Gold will be around for a long time. Now, although I think the future for Bitcoin is extremely bright, the future is still unknown. I'm not Nostradamus. I can't predict exactly what's going to happen with Bitcoin. But the fact is, we have to admit, no matter how much I personally like Bitcoin and I invest my personal money into Bitcoin, the future for it is unknown, whereas the future for gold is pretty solid gold. Number 4, the fact of the matter is, once it's lost, and I've mentioned this, on the channel before, that it's happened before, for example, that somebody's had a large amount of money locked away in Bitcoin. They've sadly passed away, with the knowledge of their keys to access that Bitcoin going with them, and that Bitcoin is sadly lost forever. And the fact of the matter is that can't happen with gold. Whether you hide it in a shoebox, buried in the backyard, I mean, okay, maybe you won't be able to find it now, but I'm sure somebody somewhere down the line will be able to find it, and that gold will actually never go out of circulation. And I think proof of that is my Roman coin collection, which I've shown one piece of that in another video. So, the point tally. Now we're up to 2 points for Bitcoin, 2 points for gold. How is this going to finish? The last topic, here we go. The last point is the storage and safety aspect of Bitcoin versus gold. And no matter whether you're stacking Satoshis, which is the base unit of Bitcoin, or beautiful golden American Eagle coins, or even large gold bars, we all have to wrestle with the best way to store our belongings. So, point number 1. Well, when comparing Bitcoin to gold, the fact is, and I covered it in the last point, is that, it can be lost. So, I mean, that point we've already established. But when it comes to being stolen, I mean, Bitcoin, a lot of people have had their keys stolen, have been the victims of phishing scams, and have lost their Bitcoin that way. Whereas we know with respect to gold, it is not that easy to steal gold from somebody. Somebody's gold can't be stolen by the result of a telephone call or a SIM card swap, which can happen in the case of Bitcoin. Number two, Bitcoin is actually extremely easy to store, it's cheap to store, whereas gold, especially if you're a big gold bug, if you're thinking some people who have millions of dollars worth of gold, they actually have to pay for it to be in a safe, have to pay for guards, etc. It's simply much easier to store Bitcoin, and this is a known fact. With respect to portability, again, Bitcoin is extremely portable. And that is actually from the first point, which makes it extremely easy to lose. But gold, it's not extremely portable. And again, if you have even $100,000 worth of gold, try to get on a plane with that. It's not very easy. And the fourth point, that is a minus for Bitcoin but a plus for gold, is that Bitcoin actually, you require technology to access it, whereas with gold you don't require any technology or electricity or anything to access it. You simply access it by its presence. So that gives us a final tally of 2.5 for Bitcoin and 2.5 for gold, and I'm sure some of you are probably disappointed because you wanted a definitive answer of which one I think is better. But remember, it's October 2021. Bitcoin's only been around for 11 years. And the fact of the matter is that this game is only in game 1 of a best of 7 series. And there are more games and more analysis to be done. And from where I'm standing, I think Bitcoin is the better investment with respect to returns, but certainly gold is the better investment with respect to safety. The one thing I can say is when I'm investing in Bitcoin, I never invest more than I'm prepared to lose. And when investing in gold, I never invest more than I'm prepared to have frozen at one time because of the, let's call it, poor liquidity of gold versus Bitcoin. So, to keep things simple for everybody, I made this table. You can bring it up now. Okay. To illustrate just how much gold measured in troy ounces and Bitcoin, I think it's important to have split by age group, with the assumption that Bitcoin is higher risk and will grow in importance over time. So, for 18 to 35-year-olds, I think it is good to have as a minimum ownership goal 0.1 Bitcoin. When it comes to having an ambitious goal, I think having 1 Bitcoin is actually an amazing goal because that puts you in absolutely rare company and could potentially make you a millionaire by today's standards in the future. When it comes to gold, if you've seen my video on the minimum ownership guide for gold, you'll know that I really think it's good to hold a minimum of 5 troy ounces of gold in bullion coins with a goal of 10 ounces, which I think is actually a fantastic level and a significant amount of savings that could come in handy being protected from inflation should you need to have some money in case of a rainy day. For 36 to 50-year-olds, I think a little less is actually needed. 0.05 Bitcoin, which is a fair share for about 20 people, is a good level of, let's call it, Bitcoin insurance should Bitcoin become extremely important in the future. And as a goal, I think it's a very good goal to hold 0.25 Bitcoin. As in my Bitcoin ownership guide video, I broke down an example that if there are 53 million millionaires in the world, which we know this is a fact, divided by about 14 million Bitcoin in circulation, assuming that 7 million have been lost, if you split that 14 million 53 million times, that leaves about 0.25 Bitcoin for every millionaire in the world, meaning that by securing yourself 0.25 Bitcoin, you will have secured yourself millionaire level Bitcoin. And with respect to gold, I think for 36 to 50-year-old people, again, that minimum of 5 ounces is quite important to try to strive for, but upping your goal level up to 15 ounces is probably a little bit safer, understanding that you want to hedge yourself a little bit more versus inflation and take a little bit lower risk later in life. And for 50-year-olds, 50 plus, I should say, I think 0.01 Bitcoin to secure it really as, let's call it a minimum insurance level for yourself should it become important in your lifetime and should you need to have it, is a very good idea to do. And with a goal of buying 0.1 Bitcoin, which in fact, if Bitcoin reaches that $1 million, $2 million, $3 million level, should be more than enough to secure someone who is 50 plus well into retirement. And again, coming to gold, 5 ounces as a minimum. And I think, considering the fact that Bitcoin comes with a little bit more risk, it's better as a goal to try to shoot to have a little bit more gold to, again, hedge yourself against inflation and protect your money without adopting too much risk. Okay, so now that that's done, let's summarize. Number 1, Bitcoin has a huge upside but comes with more risks. Bitcoin's digital ease of use means it will be preferred in the short term. Again, remember, it's easily divisible, very portable, and when you're talking about a generation, especially millennials, Gen Z, who do really everything on their mobile phones, again, this is a very fantastic form of wealth preservation that they will prefer over gold, again, at least in the short term. Number 3, it is important to secure your Bitcoin insurance, as I call it, in case it booms. Don't be left out in the cold. Today, Bitcoin, I think it's a little bit above $60,000, and I've been preaching this really since Bitcoin was right around $40,000 or even a little bit below $40,000. And again, people, I really believe that you should consider securing a little bit of Bitcoin for yourself, because from my point of view, the next stop is $85,000, which will hit by the end of the year. Now, when it comes to gold, number 1, gold is a great store of wealth and it isn't going anywhere. I've illustrated this in my gold investing video. I will link it up at the end of this video, that gold actually performs very well if you dollar cost average in versus inflation, ensuring that you don't buy any peaks. So that's a fantastic thing to hold. It has always been, and I truly believe it always will be. But the fact of the matter is, looking at point number 2, gold will never ever make you rich. Not like Bitcoin can actually change your life. Bitcoin represents what some YouTubers, popular YouTubers, I'll name Cryptos Are Us, George, I am George, shout out to George if there are any George fans out there. James from Invest Answers, that's another guy I really enjoy watching, and they always refer to Bitcoin as representing a major transfer of wealth, and actually for people who are accumulating right now, having the possibility of giving you life-changing wealth, whereas gold, it will protect your money 100% against inflation, but it won't deliver anything that's life-changing to you, something that you can, going into your 50s say, wow, I don't have to worry about retirement anymore. Bitcoin actually can give that to you, should Bitcoin, of course, develop the way a lot of experts say it will develop. And the third point is, as I mentioned, and I've mentioned this in other videos, securing yourself 5 ounces of gold in case of a rainy day to protect a significant amount of money from inflation, to get you out of a jam should you need it, should there be a collapse of the monetary system, should Bitcoin disappear, should the American dollar disappear, should all fiat currencies disappear. Having 5 ounces of gold is a really good idea. Okay, before we wrap it up, I just want to say for full disclosure that I have both Bitcoin and gold. My position in Bitcoin, however, is much, much larger than my position in gold is. And I do plan on taking profits at some time in the future on my Bitcoin to get my initial investment out, which is now more than doubled since I started investing in Bitcoin, and that's a fact. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, do so now, because I will actually, when it comes time for me to start scaling out and taking my profits on Bitcoin, I'm going to cover it right here on the channel. I'm going to say exactly when I'm doing it, how much I'm selling at different increments, and exactly tell you guys how much I'm going to keep to hold on to ride right into the future. Because again, as much as I think it's a great idea to hold Bitcoin, I think once you've reached a certain stage and you've made enough profits to where you can take your initial money off of the table, I also think that's a very wise thing to do. Before I sign off, please also check out my other videos if you're interested in where I stand on different investments. I want to be perfectly transparent on the things I hold. Although I say I believe in diversification, I do diversify, but I don't buy too much of any one thing in the different categories I invest in. And I'll tell you right now what those things are. I invest in Bitcoin, I invest in Ethereum, I invest in Chainlink. Those are the 3 cryptos I invest in. When it comes to precious metals, I invest in only gold and silver. When it comes to real estate, I prefer, and you can go back to my first video where I talk about this, I prefer smaller units, single bedroom, big cities, close to major public transportation hubs. And with respect to the stock market, again, I only hold 4 stocks: Tesla, Alibaba, Airbnb, and Pfizer, not including an ETF, actually, that I purchased many years ago, and I'm still investing in that. But when it comes to individual stocks, only those 4. So I do cover those in other videos, so stay tuned to the channel. I will be covering all those different things in varying degrees in future videos, so please stick around for that. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments section. I am super active there. I will answer your questions. I will respond to your comments. Please try to keep them respectful. And I want to let you guys know that financial security, if not financial freedom, is attainable. All it requires is the right information, and it requires the right attitude. Arrogance and the I know everything attitude is actually not going to get you there. And that was one of the reasons why I made this video, is because I've been encountering it on both sides. The Bitcoin people think they know everything. The gold people think they know everything. Boy, there was one comment where somebody said that Bitcoin can be hacked and go to zero. I mean, really, if you understood how the network worked, you wouldn't be saying really wild, outlandish things like that. And all I'm saying to everybody watching this video is open your minds, be open to some education, a little bit of humility. I mean, again, I mentioned some of the YouTubers that I'm watching. I'm out there because I'm also trying to learn. I'm out there reading articles. I'm out there, consuming as much content as I can because I'm trying to get my point of view as well-rounded as possible, again, and I'm trying to pass on as well a lot of the things that I've consumed onto you, the viewer, so you can benefit from that as well. So that's a little bit of a rant. I've gone way off a topic, so I'll wrap it up. As always, I wish you guys happiness, guys and gals, happiness. I wish you success. See you in the next video. Пока.